Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Behind the Deep State. I'm your host, Alex Newman, senior editor at the New American Magazine. And one of the biggest crimes, most visible crimes of the deep state, certainly within the last decade, is what they did to Donald Trump and the incoming administration and a lot of Trump's closest associates, the Russia collusion hoax. As General Michael Flynn says, it looks now like the hunters have become the hunted. Joining us to discuss is one of the people right in the middle of all of it, Roger Stone, longtime personal friend of Donald Trump, longtime advisor to Donald Trump, been involved in the political realm for many decades. In fact, he's served with multiple leaders, multiple presidents, from Nixon to Reagan to, of course, Donald Trump. Roger, welcome to the program. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Delighted to be with you again, Alex. It is, I think, the Russian collusion hoax. It's actually larger than that. I think it is the largest single dirty trick in American political history because it's the use of the full authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capabilities of our intelligence agencies that were weaponized for the political purpose of first destroying and removing a duly elected president. And then the conspiracy continues in an effort to thwart his return to power, which is then turns into the weaponization of the judicial system to try to keep him off the ballot in 50 states, to try to bankrupt him, to try to put him in prison, and then in the end to try to kill him at least twice. This is one continuing conspiracy run by the exact same people. So the good news about this is that the raid on Mar-a-Lago, the president's home in Palm Beach, is the last event in this seditious, treasonous conspiracy, which is why the perps can all be indicted in Florida rather than in the District of Columbia, where you can actually have a fair trial and where they're very likely to be convicted. Were they to go to trial in D.C., an experience that I have had, you will not get an unbiased judge. You'll get a hateful, biased Democrat judge with no regard for the Constitution, the law, the rules, the facts, the evidence. None of these things matter in the District of Columbia. You'll also get a completely biased, all-Democrat, Trump-hating jury. So the good news is, because this is a continuing seditious conspiracy to engage in treason, there's no statute of limitations, and these cases can be brought in South Florida, which is, I think, a more appropriate place for trial.
So the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, did refer to this as a treasonous conspiracy. It sounds like you agree with that. I mean, do you think, Roger, that these people ought to be charged with treason and conspiracy? I mean, is that what we're talking about here, really arresting them, throwing them in jail for these crimes?
Well, I mean, seditious conspiracy is a very specific crime. Treason is a very specific crime. I think they can be charged with both of those crimes. There is no question, because this was all willful. Barack Obama may have presidential immunity since for the acts that took place that he was involved in during his presidency, has no immunity, however, for the acts that took place after his vice presidency. Joe Biden, who thoughtfully suggested charging General Flynn under the Logan Act, he has no immunity for his acts as vice president. Susan Rice, the National Security Advisor, James Clapper, the Director of National Intelligence, everybody's favorite communist, John Brennan, a man who admitted on a polygraph to being a communist, to supporting the Communist Party candidate for president, a man who converted to radical Islam, specifically to Wahhabism when he was the station chief in Riyadh, the man who signed the visa for 4 of the hijackers who attacked America on 9/11, John Brennan, the man who got caught red-handed hacking and spying on a Senate committee, hacking the cell phones and the internet of a Senate committee that was investigating him for illegal use of torture as a CIA director. I believe that he's fled the country. He was in Austria, where MSNBC actually set up a makeshift studio for him so he could appear as if he was in the United States. I believe he may now have fled to Ireland in an attempt to get an Irish passport. He can run, but he can't in the end hide. He'll be extradited from wherever he is. But he most certainly, above all, should be prosecuted. We know from a CIA released report roughly 2 weeks ago that it was Brennan who insisted that the Steele dossier, which was a completely fabricated report paid for by Hillary Clinton's campaign, which falsely claimed that Donald Trump had dallied with Russian prostitutes while visiting Moscow as a private businessman, is a complete fraud. Now, it's important, Alex, I want to point this out, that the CIA's released report is the shallow most investigation into that incident. This, in my opinion, was the CIA's efforts to co-opt Tulsi Gabbard, to co-opt the House Intelligence Committee report, where there's far more detail regarding Brennan and that report. In the CIA's report, Brennan was criticized because the Steele dossier did not live up to the statecraft standards of the agency. Why didn't it just say the truth, which was the report was a total and complete fabrication? There are still bad actors at the CIA. This fellow Cliff Sims, he not only wrote a tell-all book attacking President Trump about his service in the first Trump administration, he even sued Donald Trump over the violation of a non-disclosure agreement. Why is this guy now working at the CIA for John Radcliffe? I think that's a very reasonable question. So I do think that a grand jury has already been convened. I think a prosecutor has already been appointed, and I think that testimony is being taken. I'm very hopeful that at a minimum that Biden, Rice, Brennan, FBI Director James Comey, who lies repeatedly to Congress about this, Rod Rosenstein, you remember him, he testified before the Senate that he did not authorize the investigation into Roger Stone. I have the signed scope investigation of October 17th, 2018. So there's a material lie. But the irony of that is that date is 3 weeks after we know that Robert Mueller concluded that there was no Russian collusion, which proves that my prosecution was malicious and politically motivated. As I've told you, both privately and on the air, they charged me for process crimes, not because I did anything wrong, but to try to pressure me into testifying falsely against the president. When they couldn't find any Russian collusion, they decided to try to invent it. I refused to go along with that. But I would point out to you that the Mueller prosecutors, a woman named Jeannie Rhee, prior to being appointed the chief prosecutor in my case, she represented Hillary Clinton in the illegal email server case. An obvious conflict of interest given the fact that I wrote an entire book, The Clintons' War on Women, critical of Hillary Clinton, specifically regarding her use of illegal emails. But of course, the D.C. judge, Amy Berman Jackson, conceivably the single most corrupt and biased judge in the United States, didn't think that that was a conflict of interest. Again, I think she's another, along with Robert Mueller, who should also be prosecuted. This is a long list, but I'm hopeful that we will finally see justice in this entire matter.
Yeah, and you alluded to this briefly, Roger, but I want to drill down into it. Donald Trump has said Obama was the leader of this effort. Yeah, the presidential immunity might cover him for some of that. But do you think Barack Obama was the leader, and do you think he can be held responsible based on what we know so far?
I don't think there's any question that we have evidence that this was entire matter was discussed on July 17th I think it was 2017 or probably 2016, and therefore he was expecting the Steele dossier. This was anticipated. It was prearranged. So I do think that he is the leader of the conspiracy. Now, David Schoen, who's probably the single most brilliant criminal defense lawyer in the country, makes the case, and this is an argument raised by the Democrats during Trump's impeachment, that if Obama were to be impeached, he can still be impeached even though he's no longer president. That would require, of course, articles of impeachment in the House and 2/3 of the Senate. Highly unlikely, but at least theoretically possible. I do think that under those circumstances, if first impeached, he could be prosecuted. I think it is unfortunately a stretch. What Obama knows about the death of his chef, of course, he would have no immunity about that. There's no immunity for the acts that take place after you are president. So I don't know if Obama gets brought to justice or not, but everybody else in his cabal is certainly legally vulnerable. I don't care if Joe Biden's a vegetable. He needs to be prosecuted. There's no question about that. There are other matters. He took tens of millions of dollars during his time as vice president. He lied about it in the presidential debates. House Oversight Committee has proven it. Joe has to be prosecuted. Now, Robert Mueller, who knew that the rationale for his appointment, the Steele dossier, was a fraud, and who also knew there was no online hack of the Democrat National Committee. At my trial, I wanted to bring Bill Binney, the preeminent counter intelligence IT expert in the CIA at one time, as an expert witness to present forensic evidence to prove that there had never been any online hack. But of course, Judge Jackson would not allow that. Just like she would not allow my defense attorneys to have this CrowdStrikes report. So the FBI admitted in my trial that they had never inspected the computer servers of the DNC, but they relied entirely on the CrowdStrikes report. On a motion from corrupt lawyer Mark Elias, the judge would not give that report to my defense attorneys. But we now have the testimony of Sean Henry, the CEO of CrowdStrikes, who testified honestly before the House Intelligence Committee because he was under oath, and he said that he had no proof of the Russians hacking the DNC. It's because it never happened. The download times of the material that was purloined prove that it was taken and loaded to some kind of portable drive and taken out the back door, I think most likely by Seth Rich. If Seth Rich's parents want to sue me, bring it. Please, soon. I would like to depose you under oath, including everybody else involved. Don't think that'll be happening.
Yeah. Fascinating, Roger. Turning to the media now, some of the newest revelations we're seeing from the documents that are coming out from DNI and other sources show that the media, the New York Times, Washington Post, even the Wall Street Journal, they seem to have been really willing collaborators in this whole thing. And it seems like from the documents that we've seen so far, top people at the FBI were actually directing their staffs to help and to cooperate with this, including in things that appear to be highly illegal leaks of classified information. What do we make of the media's role in all this, and how should we deal with that? I mean, they, of course, have First Amendment protections, but is there something that can or should be done here?
Well, I think we have to single out some very significant individuals. Mike Isikoff of Yahoo News, not a journalist, an FBI shill. He is the guy who moves the Steele dossier. You see, once it's in print, Then they show it to a judge and say, "You see, Your Honor, it's true." Well, that doesn't mean anything. It means they planted it at Yahoo. Isikoff is a criminal and an operative for the deep state. Then there's Ken Delanian of NBC. This guy got fired by the LA Times for clearing his stories with the Central Intelligence Agency. Again, Delanian, not a journalist, an operative for the CIA. Those are just two of the most egregious examples. Those who won Pulitzer Prizes for their coverage, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and so on, those individuals need to give those prizes back. If they refuse, then we as citizens need to go take them. I feel very strongly about this.
Clearly. Fascinating stuff, what we're seeing here. And before we leave this subject, I've got a bunch of other things I want to ask you about, Roger, but are there still moles or swamp monsters or deep state operatives within the federal government, within the bureaucracy, that could sabotage some of these efforts to bring about accountability? And if so, what should be done?
Very definitely. I'll give you a couple of examples. Right now, there is a case before the Southern District of New York where a Standard Charter Bank, a New York-based bank, violated the Iranian sanctions by wiring $9.6 billion to entities in Iran. The overall number is more than 100 million because they also made illegal transfers to China. New York Attorney General Letitia James was completely apprised of this. She knew it was a violation, but she did nothing. So the Biden Justice Department knew this. They covered it up. Letitia James knew it. She should be prosecuted. And then the people over at the Federal Reserve who have to approve a transfer of that size through the SWIFT system, they also knew. All of these people should be prosecuted. The U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, whose name is Jay Clayton, worked for a law firm, Sullivan Cromwell, which previously represented Standard Chartered Bank, so he should recuse himself. But the two prosecutors under him, a fellow named Buckley and a fellow named Barnea, Biden holdovers, they're opposed to the prosecution of Letitia James and the others involved in this scandal. Why haven't these people been fired, is my question. Right now, they are trying to shield Letitia James. That's one example. The other example I gave you is this fellow, Cliff Sims, who is working at the Central Intelligence Agency. This guy sued Donald Trump. This guy trashed Donald Trump in a book, in a tell-all book. It's interesting. He's working as a consultant to the CIA, so he's not technically on the payroll. What's he doing there at all is my question. Just a couple of examples. So, particularly in the Justice Department, you have very good people at the top. The president's U.S. attorney appointees in virtually every district have been very good, but note the Democrats will never allow them to be confirmed. As you know, we have a system which, by tradition, the two senators of a given state have to at least acquiesce in the appointment of the U.S. attorneys, and if they refuse to do so, the full Senate will not take up those confirmations. That's a problem. Everybody, whether it's the District of New Jersey or the Southern or Eastern District of New York, just the ones I'm most familiar with, everybody below the Trump appointee at the top is a Biden holdover trying to undo or derail any real prosecutions. We're still bringing prosecutions for crypto crimes that, under a memo put out by the the Trump Justice Department, are no longer considered crimes. Yet the prosecutions of some of those involved in crypto, based on the anti-crypto stance of the Biden Justice Department, continue. The Department of Justice needs a top-to-bottom house cleaning, as does probably every department of government. There are many, many deep state moles still in the government, still thwarting the efforts of people like Tulsi Gabbard, who I think has done an exceptional job of not only releasing these classified documents, but doing so in a very deliberate and well thought out manner. And I understand that she has more information coming regarding corruption in the 2020 election, as well as other items of of importance. Even if you focus on the assassination of John F. Kennedy, the president's order for disclosure of that information was very narrowly written. So, for example, he ordered the National Archives to turn over what they had. The CIA has held back the files regarding a man named George Joanides, and now we know why. Because Joanides was Lee Harvey Oswald's handler. He was monitoring his movements, he was reading all of his correspondence, he was directing his actions. We only have that information because Tulsi Gabbard bludgeoned it out of the CIA. Otherwise, it would have been denied to the American people and denied to the House committee that's investigating this. I think Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has done an excellent job of trying to chase down those elements that are still being withheld. There are quite a few. For example, NBC has video taken that day, November 22nd, 1963. It is possible that video shows Lee Harvey Oswald outside the Texas School Book Depository building during the time that the assassination took place. We won't know because NBC won't turn over that film. It needs to be subpoenaed. We also have the report of Walter Sheridan, who's an investigator working for Robert F. Kennedy Sr., the Attorney General. Later went to work at NBC. NBC has the report that he prepared for the Attorney General. NBC refuses to turn it over. It needs to be subpoenaed. Carlos Marcello, the gangster who ran the mob in Louisiana and in Texas. We still don't have the recordings of him when he was in jail, but his jail cell was bugged before and after Kennedy's assassination. Now, Alex, the Assassinations Records Review Board had those records. The House Intelligence Committee, Select Committee on Assassination, had those records. That committee's final report said that organized crime was deeply involved in John Kennedy's assassination. Okay, then why have none of the documents handed over by the National Archives pertaining to the Kennedy assassinations even discuss the question of organized crime? So there's still a lot of pieces missing. Thanks only to Tulsi Gabbard and to Congresswoman Luna are these missing pieces being chased down.
Wow. Roger, we're almost out of time, so just some rapid-fire questions here real quick. What's your take on Epstein? This has really become a hot potato here. What's your take?
I hope the Democrats get what they want, which is full exposure, because what it will do is exonerate Donald Trump, who completely cut Epstein off in 2005. I personally investigated this matter for my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women. You can get it by going to EpsteinTruthBook.com, EpsteinTruthBook.com. Bill Clinton visited the island at least 4 times. Donald Trump was never on the island. Bill Clinton was on Epstein's plane at least 26 times. What the Democrats are going to find when they get all this material is those political figures who were involved in pedophilia and child sex trafficking are all Democrats. I'll name them. Senator George Mitchell, the Senate Majority Leader of Maine, former Democrat Governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, Bill Gates. I don't think he's a Republican. These people were all deeply involved in child sex trafficking. I'm for full disclosure, but it's the Trump administration that has moved in court, both in Florida and in New York, to disclose the grand jury testimony against Epstein and against Ghislaine Maxwell, and there are Democrat judges who are preventing those releases. So this is all posturing. I'm in complete agreement. Let's see all of the Epstein material. All it will do is show you that Bill Clinton is a pervert and that he was involved in pedophilia.
Excellent. Thank you for your take on that, Roger. You also have a very important article posted at your website, stonecoldtruth.com. Folks, if you're not subscribed for Roger's updates, you need to be. It's about Representative Carlos Jimenez. I, of course, am from Miami. I have a special interest in this. But he's apparently shielding a Defense Department contractor that appears to be very, very cozy with the brutal Cuban regime. What can you tell us about that, Roger?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big story. I mean, basically, Congressman Carlos Jimenez, who poses as a foe of the Castro regime and has been very critical of China, is shielding this defense contractor because of their involvement with Cuba. Now, as you know, because you're from Miami, opposition to Castro is a cottage industry. There's a bunch of congressmen who've never done anything whatsoever to improve the lives of the Cuban people, but they dine out on their opposition to Fidel Castro. They collect thousands of dollars of campaign contributions, yet nothing really changes. In the case of Jimenez, I want to know about his contacts with Cuban intelligence. I'm seeking that information through a Freedom of Information Act. If I have to file a lawsuit, I will. By the way, people don't know this. Members of Congress have no immunity when it comes to breaking the law, nor do they have any immunity when it comes to treason. So it's time for Jimenez to come clean about his secret deal with the Cubans and why he is shielding the involvement of U.S. contractors when they're involved with Cuba.
I know there's a lot of inquiring minds in Miami that would like to know. Roger, we've got less than 2 minutes left. Is Trump going to be able to drain the swamp, and what should Americans be doing to help?
I think that he is. I mean, I think we're off to a very strong start. I mean, first of all, the key to everything is a vibrant economy. All the experts said, oh, his demands for better tariff deals is going to tank the economy. Inflation will be out of control. Here's the good news, Alex, and I think you'll like this. The president wants to repeal the 2013 Federal Income Tax Act, and he wants to repeal the Federal Reserve Act. I think he's pushing in that direction. If he can get tariff revenues to a high enough point, I think both of those are possible. But I do have one question. Where's the gold? I mean, Elon Musk told us he was going to inspect the gold that is held by the Federal Reserve and at Fort Knox, the Federal Reserve in New York, and at Fort Knox. No one has seen the gold since 1974. Now, I like Elon Musk. I think he's a proponent of free speech, but I want to know, where is the gold and why hasn't anyone seen it?
Yeah, I think a lot of us would like to know that, Roger, and very encouraged to hear your thoughts on the Federal Reserve Act and so many other things. So, Roger, thank you for joining us today. Legendary political operative. The folks can sign up for your news updates at stonecoldtruth.com. All your excellent books are available on Amazon. You're on X. Any other place people should follow you?
You can go to Stone Cold Truth. You can go to stonezone.com and find all my books and stuff there. And you can hear my radio show at 77 WABC Radio by going to WABCradio.com. That's WABCradio.com every day at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 days a week.
Roger Stone, thank you so much for joining us today. Folks, that's all we have time for today. I want to thank you for tuning in. I'm Alex Newman, Senior Editor at The New American. This is Behind the Deep State. Until next time, God bless you all.